So I have this evil stepmom and her daughter. They want me to pay for a trip for them to go to Bali. And she's blackmailing me, saying if I don't pay for this fancy trip with all these 5-star course meals and first-class tickets, then she's going to tell my father to kick me out of my childhood home. And he's going to do it because he's deeply in love with her. Well, you know what I'm going to do with little Miss Perfect? I'm going to ruin her. I was already having a hard time accepting the loss of the most beautiful gift life has given you when things decided to get messier. My story could be considered as the urban version of Cinderella, except for the fact that my father was still very much alive. I only have one stepsister, as I was never made to sleep at the cinders, thankfully. I have vivid memories of my mother because I wasn't really that young when she died. It was that day before my 15th birthday. I'd been looking forward to the party for weeks. Unfortunately, my mom gave up the fight against cancer. I kissed her goodnight the night before, but she just never woke up. I don't know how my father was still able to manage to get a cake and a few of my friends to come over and sing me a happy birthday song a few days later, but he did. I was too somber to appreciate any of the attempts made to cheer me up. I had just lost my best friend. We used to sit and just talk for hours, even after she was diagnosed with leukemia, when her illness kept getting worse, so much that she could not sit up or do anymore. I would go to her room and talk to her until she peacefully slipped into oblivion. I knew my mother loved me, and I loved her too, and her death had struck me like lightning and turned my world upside down. It also affected my studies terribly and made me slack off on my scores, so I had to repeat a class. 5 months later, it seemed like my dad and I were already starting to adjust to her absence. I still missed her, but the pain that I felt in my chest whenever I thought of her was not electrifying anymore. My dad suddenly stopped coming home as frequently as he used to, and I just assumed he was probably too busy with work at the office, especially since he had postponed a lot of things during the 5 months we mourned my mom. Hey, Jessica. This is Jade, and that's her daughter, Mia. My father introduced 2 strangers to me on a random Tuesday. I was confused and scared because even without him spelling it out, I already had an idea of who the woman was. And I was right. She's my new wife, honey. He explained when I silently just kept staring at them. I was tempted to point out the fact that she did not look very new to me, but I was wisely just to hold my tongue and just say hello to them. You poor child. Don't worry, I'll take very good care of you. It wasn't what she said, but how she said it that made my skin crawl. But anyways, I wasn't going to make a fuss about my dad's decision to take a wife in less than a year. It seemed to make him happy. I also found out they got married in court, and it was probably part of the reason that he had not been home so frequently. Mia seemed to be around my age. We both had the same strawberry blonde hair, and I believe we could pass off as sisters if we put our minds to it, and I was excited at the prospect of having a sister that I could hang out with, even though we weren't technically related, until I tried to engage in a conversation with her, and she just got up and left the room. I didn't think much of it. She might not have wanted her mom to marry my dad, and maybe that she was just acting up. So I gave her 1 more week to acclimate and get used to the fact that I was family before trying again. She still had that same snobby, dismissive attitude, and I would not even spare me a glance. I was beginning to pick up on what was going on. At first, the treatments were subtle, like things like Jade heavily diluting my orange juice with water every morning before breakfast and during dinner time, and her not letting me turn the heater on in my room, not letting me run long baths like I used to, and since my mom died, switching my thick bed sheets with cheap, worn-out ones, not letting me watch TV with them, especially when my dad was not home, and making me see my friend just once every 2 weeks. Then it gradually went up to stopping me from hanging out with them entirely. I tried to talk to my dad about it, but she already got to him first. He told me that she said my friends were a bad influence because she had heard us discussing boys and clubbing, which wasn't true at all. Well, needless to say, my father believed his beloved wife over me, and I subsequently became lonelier than ever. On the year of my 16th birthday, my dad bought me a flowery dress. It was a beautiful dress, and I was looking forward to wearing it on my big day. But then Jade, my stepmother, told me I wasn't allowed to. So when I asked her why, she explained, albeit very sternly, that Mia deserved to wear the dress on my birthday because she was 1 year older than me. Her explanation did not make one lick of sense, but there was nothing that I could do about it. I had to wear my old dress from the year before as I patiently waited for my dad to notice what happened. He did not even notice, and I did not even bother to tell him about it, because the few times I complained to him about how badly his wife was treating me, he never believed it, not a single word, and never made an effort to investigate and see if I was making things up or not. I'd often thought about running away from the house. I felt like I was mature enough to take care of myself, but then the house was the only thing that held my mother's memory, and I clung to it. The hand-painted walls of my bedroom, the little frame landscape painting on the walls of the living room, the quilted bed cover that she's given me on the summer I turned 11. I couldn't just leave all this behind. It felt like I was giving up on my mother's love and efforts. Also, there was the issue of me not having any money or a cell phone because Jade once again got into my father's head and convinced him that I did not need any allowance money since she got me everything I needed. She also took away my phone and told him that she caught me sending inappropriate pictures to boys online. What? All these were bold lies, and they hurt. But what hurt the most was the fact that my father did not even question any of these statements, and he never once asked her for any proof. He just blindly went along with whatever she was spewing. Well, anyways, it was obvious to me that she had him wrapped around her pretty little fingers. Mia was worse than her mother. She took the whole evil stepsister thing a bit too far, and I got bullied in the house, at school, and by her and her minions. It was getting unbearable, but I had to focus on college applications and just deciding which career path I would go. I do not accept it, was my stepmother's words, blatantly forbidding me from going through my plans of going to UC, University of California. But for the first time since my mom died, my dad supported me. Jade did not like it, especially since her daughter had gotten admitted into a college not so far from home, about 30 to 40 minutes away. Once again, I did not understand the correlation between her daughter going to a college close to home and me wanting to go a bit further. It was almost as if she did not want me to do anything as long as she knew it would make me happy. Anyways, I left for my university a week after my 18th birthday. I didn't know what the future held for me, but I was determined to make something out of my life. I was going to study law. It's what my mother and I had always talked about, and I was finally going to not just make my dreams come true, but her dreams as well. Things weren't easy. I had to pick up 2 waitressing jobs and rent a much cheaper, run-down apartment because my allowance kept getting smaller and smaller each month. I didn't know whose fault that was, but I wasn't going to let them know how much I was suffering. Not like they even cared about it anyways. Okay, we're going to fast forward now 5 years. I'd already finished law school and I've been called to the bar. I just landed a pretty nice job at one of the biggest firms in the city. Things seemed to be going pretty well, except for the fact that my stepmother, Jade, she called me up yesterday and practically ordered me to arrange a vacation to Italy for her and Mia. Well, I was shocked to speak for a moment. I just dropped the call. I got home after the day's work and she came to my room to repeat her order. Word for word. My dad's business has been failing lately and he's not been able to afford her lavish lifestyle much, so she's turning to me. Now, most of you might have already guessed that I still went back to my family house even though I had a job now. Well, I can't afford an apartment for now because I just started the job a few weeks ago, so I haven't even got my first paycheck yet. And also because I just can't leave the only thing that keeps my mom's memory alive. There's something in that house that just keeps drawing me. No matter how far I am, it's a part of me. And even though my dad has allowed his wife and her daughter to mismanage a lot of things, it's still home to me. So, apparently Jade wants me to book a flight for her and Mia with my money. then make reservations at a quote 5-star hotel, nothing less, for her and Mia, and also see to it that they have a good time on their vacation. Of course, I thought she was bluffing. I told her I was not going to do such a thing and explained that I had not even gotten my first salary yet. Turns out I don't have a no option because Jade just threatened to have my father throw me out of the home. Yeah, this would sound impossible if I did not know just how much control she had over him. As of now, I'm in a very tight spot where I either have to sign away my first salary that I haven't even gotten yet, or get tossed out into the streets. I'll update you guys soon enough. Update number 1. Hey everyone, I decided to give an update on my story since some of you seem so interested in it. Things took a bit of a different direction, at least for me. After Jade made her request, I decided to talk to my dad again. I wasn't even sure what that would happen or do, since he didn't have enough money to keep up with my stepmom's extravaganza. Anyways, I talked to him and told him everything from how Jade used to treat me both in his absence and right under his nose, and how she demanded I fund her and Mia's trip to Italy, Milan. I wasn't even surprised when he didn't seem angry or anything. He just kept a calm demeanor and told me to go back to my room and let him handle things. Meanwhile, Jade and her daughter were busy stocking up on the latest clothing and shoes for their trip to Italy. So yesterday, I kinda went out with this guy from work. Oh, come on, guys. It's nothing serious, just dinner. And I saw my dad at the restaurant with a gorgeous redhead I've never seen before. I didn't need a soothsayer to tell me that they were clearly on a romantic date. We erased any flicker of doubt I made. That was when he leaned in and kissed the strange lady. Luckily, he didn't notice me until they both got up and walked out of the restaurant, holding hands. I wasn't just going to let this slide. Unfortunately, in my attempt to not be seen by him, I had refrained from taking any pictures. So that meant I had to find some type of evidence in case things eventually came down to exposing and proving I somehow managed to get home before my father, though. Even though he left before me. Maybe he and the woman had stopped somewhere else to continue their little rendezvous. For some reason, my eyes burned with tears as different questions popped into my head. Had my father cheated on my stepmom? Had my father cheated on my mom, too? How long had he known this woman? I felt more betrayed than when he remarried just months after Mom passed. So I decided to have a look around and see what I could find out. Jade and Mia were nowhere to be found, per usual, probably out living their life. I went into my dad's room. I felt a bit nostalgic as I took into the plush rug and big bed that I liked to climb on when I was a kid, especially on scary thunder nights. My dad and Mom had not slept in separate rooms until her illness started. I first looked through the mess of paperwork scattered all over his table. There was nothing. Then I went through all the cabinets and the bookshelves, still nothing. I was about to give up and call it a night when my eyes fell on my mom's favorite file holder. So I picked it up, pulled out the large brown file in it. It was a bunch of paperwork about inheritance, tax, and divorce. After reading through it, it was obvious to me that my dad was not quite a pushover as much as he made Jade believe. He had made her sign a prenuptial agreement that automatically erased all chances of her getting anything if they divorced. I can't say I know how he was able to convince her of that one, but her signature was right there, plain as day. There were also a few documents that suggested my father had sold some shares in his company. It seemed like he was planning something. Planning to leave the house after the divorce, I see. My honest conclusion is that my dad plans to divorce my stepmom, and the red-haired woman probably has something to do with his decision. My stepmom apparently won't be getting anything out of the separation, which she doesn't even know anything about. By the way, it seems like everyone else except me has something major up their sleeve. Maybe it's time I change that. Update number 2. Hey guys, I know. I kinda left it on a cliffhanger, didn't I? So, here's how things are currently. I just got my first paycheck 2 days ago. My stepmother already knows, and she already has reminded me of what she wants me to do. And also, she changed her mind about Italy. She wants me to buy a ticket and book a flight to Bali for them while also assorting their accommodation issues. Now, I know most of you would be thinking I should use my salary to rent an apartment and just move out before I'm kicked out. Giving Jade the middle finger, but see, that's the thing about hit dogs. They holler. My stepmom and her daughter have been hitting me for a very long time, so it's high time that I hit them back. I can always get another salary, but, I just won't always get the sweet opportunity to pay them back every single time they've made me feel like a stranger in my own home. Do they want a trip? Okay, they're going to get one. So you know what I did? I went ahead to buy them 2 first-class tickets to Bali. They insisted I take a day off to drive them to the airport. I was already going to do that without them even asking, and it was a necessary step in my plan. After all the bustling and pushing suitcases around, they finally got in line. I stood back and watched them get asked some questions and eventually sent off. It was a bit surprising that they had not bothered to check for their cell phones, which I had snagged while they were busy arguing with some lady who cut the line. Let's see how they survive in Indonesia, a non-English speaking country, without their phones or their credit cards. It didn't matter that I had put the rest of my salary in the account for them. They could not even access it. So I made sure of that. There's also one more surprise waiting for them when they finally arrive in Bali. The resort I booked for them is not exactly open for business right now. They haven't been open for business in 3 months, and Jade would have to find out the hard way. If she had bothered to pick up her phone and do some research about where she was going, rather than just entrusting me like I'm some sort of personal assistant for her. Oh, and that goofy daughter of hers. Sure, they'd fly first class to one of the most beautiful places on this earth, but they would not be able to afford a backplane ticket, and they certainly would not afford anywhere to sleep. At least, nowhere comfortable. It felt exhilarating. I had expected my dad to ask for Jade and Mia the first night that they did not sleep at home, but he didn't. Same with the next day. It was on the 3rd day that he finally asked me if I knew where they went. I simply told him they were off vacationing in Bali. He just nodded and went back to watching the television. He didn't care about them to be worried about the fact that they had not contacted him since they left. I shared his indifference. I don't care what happened to them over there. It's been 5 days now, and he's beginning to show me some signs of worry. I wonder how long before he notices that there's more to that trip than I let on. Update number 3. Hey everyone, this might probably be my last update on the story. So yesterday, my father finally asked me why my stepmom and Mia had not bothered to contact him since they left for Indonesia about 6 days ago. I told him they both decided that they did not want to be a part of this life anymore, and they ran away to Bali under the guise of vacationing. He looked incredulous, as if he could not fathom the reason why they would want to make such a grand exit. I added that I had overheard them discussing and planning it before the trip. Well, she didn't have to do all that if she wanted a divorce. She could have just asked so, was his only response, and I almost danced with glee. I was almost tempted to bring up the papers I had seen in his room, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to have that conversation, or how he would react to me snooping through his private stuff, so I just let it go. For now, I think I'm good. I'll just wait and see if he'll eventually tell me about it. Update number 4. I genuinely thought, that was going to be the last update, but then, just like any good story, there's always a little twist. Whenever you think about it, it's, to get all good. Jade and Mia did find a way to get back home. They walked straight in about a few hours ago, and 2 whole weeks later, I'm not even going to lie, I legit thought that they would never come back home. Then bam! They came crashing into the house and into me, literally. Luckily, my dad was there to kind of calm down the situation. Jade put on a good show, that's for sure. Unashamed, crying and ranting about how I sent her and Mia off to a foreign country without any money or any cell phones at all. I don't know why I thought she sounded stupid at that point, maybe because she did sound stupid. Anybody else who would think I was some sort of hired help, responsible for her and her daughter's well-being, rather than a normal 25-year-old woman trying to make something out of her life. For once, I expected something different from my dad, but he still failed me. Without even bothering to hear anything I had to say, he turned and started yelling at me, throwing around words like troublesome, inconsiderate, and this is unlike you. And even going as far as to asking me what was wrong with me. I finally had enough, especially from him. So for the first time, I yelled at my own father. He's been a crappy parent since my mom died, and I let him know that. While I was away in California, I had to work 2 jobs to support the meager amount his allowance gave me from his allowed wife. Before that, I had to endure their scathingly degrading treatment right under the roof that I had to live in before they came in. And what had he done about it? Nothing. What about the time I would complain to him? Still nothing. He had failed to protect me, and I told him how ashamed of him I was and how my mother would be rolling in her grave. Watching him let Jade force me into giving up my first ever major paycheck, watching him allow them to treat me like I was unwanted, a stray dog that they picked up from the trash. He had tried to defend himself by saying that at least he managed to send me to college and yada yada. Well, that just made me even angrier. So I asked him why he was defending Jade like he wasn't planning on leaving her. They all turned to me like I had just dropped some sort of bombshell. Well, technically I did, and the expressions on their face were priceless. I wish you defended me with such vehemence, I added, and then pulled away when he tried to come closer to me. I'm sorry, Jessica. I told him he should be sorry for how he disrespected his wife, my mother, by bringing in another woman less than a year after she lost her life to cancer, and how he still cannot manage to keep them together, even after he married Jade. So, my stepmother finally reacted to everything that unfolded, and right before her and I winced as her palm struck my dad's face and said, I hate you. She spat out before turning towards her bedroom, with Mia towing behind her. I could hear her crying and sobbing, but I could not bring myself to feel bad. She has been having an affair with my father when my mom was still alive, or so I assumed. So you know what? This is her karma. I hope the prenuptial agreement between them did not have adultery as a deal breaker. Otherwise, my father is going to be in some big trouble. Things have been so crazy, and I don't know how much longer that it will last. I need some peace in my life right now. I'm so tired of all of this mess. I mean, what should I even do about my own father? He allowed me into my room, and I wasn't surprised when he ignored Jade's howling. He did not care for her after all. At least, not anymore. I pretended like I didn't see that he was standing right there and just began grabbing my clothing, and shoes, and the rest of my stuff. I'd finally made up my mind to leave. Yes, the house held so many good memories for me. It reminded me when I was cared for, but it also held these unwanted memories. I put in as much personal stuff as my bag could contain. I decided to come back later for the artwork. It was then that my father grabbed my wrist and would not let go until I stopped trying to break free. He said he just needed a few minutes to tell me something very important. I could not imagine what it was that he wanted to say, but I listened anyways. He told me to wait while he rushed into his room and came back with another file I had not seen during my search the other day. He proceeded to say he knew I had found out about his plans to divorce Jade by going through his stuff, and that if I had looked a bit deeper, I would have seen the papers that he had with him. And the papers he showed to me changed my world, you guys. I'll update you. Final update. Hey everyone, this is it. I promise, everything's fine now, and it's for real the last time. So, the file my father showed me contained some documents that prove that our house had been willed to me by my mom. First of all, I didn't even know the house belonged to my mother's side of the family. I'd always just assumed it was Dad's property. I was wrong. So currently I'm on a house owner. Yeah, that's right, I own it. Secondly, the will also said I could take charge of the house and other stuff, so she had also left me immediately after I turned 18. Ladies and gentlemen, I was 18 years old 5 to 6 years ago, so this means my father had purposely withheld my inheritance from me for reasons best known to him. I didn't bother asking him when or how he was planning to let me know about it, or if he was ever going to. I'm not quite sure that I can handle anything he might say, because even though I harbor him right now, I'd still want to leave a tiny chance for forgiveness someday. I don't want to completely cut him off, even though there is what he deserves. I do feel a little bit like I'm betraying myself by still craving a connection with my father, considering he betrayed and disrespected my mom's spirits by bringing in a married woman, his mistress, before her ashes even had some time to cool. As for Jade and Mia, I kicked them out 3 hours ago before I decided to make the last update. They are never coming back to my life again. Their pleas for forgiveness were completely ignored by me because they never treated me with any atom of respect. So why should I treat them with anything better than what they gave me? There's also the small incident of Jade threatening to make my dad kick me out. Ironic, right? Since she's the homeless, penniless one now. I admit that a huge chunk of my satisfaction I felt from telling them to get the heck out of my house and never come back was from realizing that a few weeks ago, I could have been me. Not every princess gets a happy ending, and honestly, I'm not even sure that mine is happy. But as for now, I'm content and I'm at peace. I do feel like the strange connection I had with this house was because deep down, my subconscious always knew it belonged to me. Either that or my mom was trying to make me see it. Whichever one it is, I'm very glad how everything turned out. I'm usually a very self-assured, especially when I make a decision, but just to be sure, did I take things too far? Or were there any places I might have overdone anything? Also, with my dad, is it right that I still want him to be a part of my life even after everything? Let me know. Yeah, the comment section was kind of blaming OP for kicking out the father in the end too. I don't know what their deal is. This father was not there for his daughter. He didn't care about the women he dated in just less than a year. And by the way, I'm not saying this is wrong to get remarried about a year or less when somebody significant dies to you. I'm not saying that's necessarily the wrong move because people grieve differently. And for him to go get a new girlfriend or a wife a year after his wife died, that's not a problem, in my opinion. I think the problem comes from it's very obvious that the father just doesn't care about people in his life. He seems toxic, and OP was fed up with it. She says, "You didn't defend me from my stepmom or her daughter, and you can just get out too." I want to know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below, so let's talk about it. My name's Mr. Reddito. I narrate stories like this every day, so if you guys want to be a part of these daily drama readings, consider subscribing. It does help out the channel if you hit that subscribe button, and might as well press the bell notification while you're at it. Guys, have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, and of course, remember, it's cool to be kind. Peace.